Hello and welcome to another Two Network video. This is a summer update. We're in the first week of July, so let's see what's been going on at Newcastle this week. Okay, so first up we made our first new addition to the squad after signing Atsu last month, or 2 months ago, is Florian Lejeune from Eibar, who's quite a tall defender. He's come in for £8.7 million. And he's coming to challenge for the centre-back. I don't know what that means for the likes of the Clark-Lascelles pairing. I don't know what that means for Chancel Mbemba. What it definitely means for Grant Handley is that he's pretty much off. Sheffield Wednesday likely to be going for him, I think, from the sounds of things. But Lejeune, I'll admit, never seen him play, not once. I saw a pretty mint raker that he scored on Twitter. That seemed pretty decent, but we haven't got him for his goal scoring. Let's have a look at some of his stats actually from last season, and Eibar were pretty impressive given the relatively small scale of their club. So let's have a look. Opta saying here, Lejeune made 191 clearances in the La Liga, which is the most of any defender in the competition. Obviously, it's important to keep in mind that because he was playing for a lesser side, Eibar, defender, he's going to have more to do. But he was still there to do it, which I think is encouraging. You know, the fact that he's coming at the top of any kind of stats table, I think says a lot about who he is and what kind of potential he can bring to the squad. Who scored saying, of the 173 players to contest over 50 aerial duels in La Liga last season, Lejeune had the best aerial success rate, and that was at 76.2%. Again, he's getting lots of stuff done as a defender. He's involved in a lot. I think his aerial prowess is going to be a really big asset in the Premier League. I know Lascelles and Clark good in the air, but I think Lejeune seems to have that commanding presence as well. But he also isn't too bad on the floor either. 75% pass completion last season, which is reasonable for a centre back playing in one of the Europe's top 5 leagues. I think that's pretty sound, to be honest. I think that's not too bad. Apparently he can kind of play as a midfielder as well, but I think we'll mainly be seeing him in centre back. Interesting to note that in his interview he did suggest that he had played in 3-man defences before. So I don't know what that means for our intentions in the Premier League, for Rafa playing maybe a 3-man defence. I don't know if we're going to have the wing backs to do it, as we've certainly got Lejeune that can perform that wide right role, but I wouldn't really put Dummett into that category of the marauding. To be honest, Dummett's and important to mention that Dummett and Lascelles have both been offered new deals, or reported to be offered new deals this week as well. But maybe the left side of a 3-man centre back triplets might actually be the best. Might actually be the best position for Dummett, who I don't see as a natural left back, although he performed really well last season. I see him more of a centre back, so maybe left side of centre back might be his calling. Who knows? But he's got a new contract along with Jamal Lascelles as well, on top of Lejeune signing. A couple more stats here of La Liga interceptions in last season. Sergio Ramos and Pepe combined 95. Lejeune on his own 104. Again, Eibar defence is going to be a lot busier than the Real Madrid defence, but it just kind of goes to show how much he was involved last season, and then he's not afraid to muck in. So I think for 8.7 million, it's a very low risk signing, and he seems to have stats on his side, even though, like myself, many of you might never have seen him play. Let's trust Rafa on this one. I'm going to go for it. I think it'd be a success. I think it'd be great. Plus, he looks a bit like Alderweireld as well, so can't be all bad, can it? News coming in today is that Vernon Anita, who's released by us last month, has joined Leeds United on a free transfer. Really pleased for him. I think it was the right decision to let him go. I know a lot of you guys, well, he was quite divisive. I think a lot of you agreed with me that it was probably just time to move on. Personally, I thought he was a kind of jack of all trade, master of nothing. I don't think he was particularly excelled in defensive midfield because of his diminutive height. I thought that at right back he was suspect and quite slow off the pace. But good luck to him. He was a really good servant for Newcastle. He didn't even look like he was looking to move on when we got relegated. He sort of seemed to step up, take a lot of responsibility as being one of the senior members of the squad as well. I liked him a lot as a guy. I guess he as a footballer, he seemed to be quite a professional, model professional. But I think now, top of the Championship's probably his level, and I think he'll do well there, and I think he'll be well loved by the fans. So that's Vernon Anita, found himself a new club. Right, so the other bit of news this week is that Sky and BT have released their fixture list, and of our first 7 Premier League fixtures back in the Premier League, 5 of them are going to be televised. So the opener against Spurs, that's been moved to Sunday at 1:30. 7 days later, we'll be playing Huddersfield away at 1:30. That's another Super Sunday as well. Then we've got West Ham at home. That's not televised. Then we've got on September the 10th at Swansea away. That's going to be televised. It's a 4 p.m. kickoff. Then we've got September the 16th, Stoke at home. That's not televised. But then September the 24th, the Brighton away match. That's also been moved to a 4 o'clock Sunday kickoff. And then October the 1st is Liverpool at home, and that's a 4:30 p.m. kickoff. So there's been a couple of interesting tweets. By the Minute, NUFC tweeted that Sky had a 19% drop in TV viewers last season. They show 5 of our games in the opening few weeks of the new season. Coincidence? Nah. And it's quite poignant. I mean, obviously Newcastle got a lot of airtime on Sky during the Championship, which is very understandable. But it can't be denied that we're a draw on TV, even in the Premier League. The drop in TV viewers, I think, has probably a lot to do with maybe the growing piracy that's kicking about and is a lot more accessible for people. And some of the big broadcasters have to try and combat that. But it's still to be said that we are a draw. The fact that they've got the Liverpool game in there, I think, says a lot. And, you know, we're part of the opening weekend as well against Spurs. That's going to be an absolutely massive game. Hopefully it'll be a repeat of the 5-1 as we mentioned before. But, yeah, I think 5 out of the 7... and the other 2 are home games anyway. So for season ticket holders like myself, like you guys, that's the first 7 games of the season absolutely smashed in. Brilliant. Can't wait. It's becoming a lot more real now, isn't it? Now that the fixtures are out and you've got the times as well. You can actually start planning your life around the new season. But there's a long way to go yet. There's a good month or so before that gets kicked off. About 5 weeks' time. But on the fixture shifts as well, Gary Willis on Twitter also says, absolute disgrace that the games at Brighton and Swansea are 4 p.m. kickoffs on a Sunday for TV. Last trains, planes will be missed. I think that's a really, really good point. And if you remember when we played Brighton away last season in the Championship, in the 2-1 victory, that really important win where Perez got the winner, that was on a Tuesday night. And if you think Brighton, I mean, I checked the miles and it's a 690 mile round trip. So nearly 700 miles that away fans are going to have to travel to get there and back. And they've put it on sort of like the last game on a Sunday. Again, it's baffling. And I think, You know, Newcastle shoved all the way up there in the north, largely forgotten about. It's not great, and it's not logic. You know, I think more needs to be done to combat sort of illogical fixture arrangements like that. It's quite silly. Nothing we can do. Obviously, we just got to suck it up. But you know, we'll still be able to take. Guarantee we'll still be taking a massive crowd down there. Likely we'll sell out the allocation given the rivalry last season. But it'll be great to watch anyway. It'll be a good one. So yeah. So anyway, looking at some transfer targets. Obviously, there's been a bit of unrest and a bit of concern amongst fans. I know a couple of the journalists close to St James's Park goings on have maybe intimated that Rafa is a bit not quite disillusioned. I mean, there were some tabloid papers that suggested he was on the brink, ready to go. It doesn't sound like that was actually close to being the case, but it doesn't mean that he's not unhappy currently. We went for Tammy Abraham. That we seem to dither there, and Swansea swooped in and got him. We went for Caballero, but I think we offered him number 1 spot, Caballero, and he's gone to sit on Chelsea's bench, which is fair play. I think you'll still see a lot of game time in cup competitions, Champions League perhaps, and that's kind of a draw that we can't really provide. But besides those, there doesn't seem to be. I mean, maybe it's good that we don't know what's going on, because it also means other clubs don't know what we're doing either. And I think, you know, I'll take a bit of sort of non-communication about who we're going for and when, if it means that that's gonna help us beat other clubs to players that we want. I'd rather be happy at the end of the summer than and go through a little bit of frustration now, say, than sort of be told absolutely everything, but then that sort of gives a game away. We want to keep our cards close to our chest, especially in a summer like this. It's going to be so unpredictable. But I think it's true that we really need to. We've got Lejeune in. We got him for quite a cheap price. But what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to break that seal, that £20 million seal. There's no way we're going to get through the summer without spending £20 million at least on one player. It's got to happen. If we want the quality that we should be getting in, that we should be expecting in this marketplace, we absolutely need to be breaching and breaking our club record, which I think was owing for 16.8 million, 17 million. that's existed since, well, it's existed for about 12 years or so. So where do we look for? We know we're looking at a lot of foreign talent as well, but what I think, and what I've written an article about as well, is that to have a look at the top 6 clubs in the Premier League, there's a lot of potential there, and I think that's the ideal market for Newcastle United. What we want is Premier League experience, so that there's a lack of risk there. But what we also want is players who have been amongst the top managers, have been in squads with the top players that aren't getting a game. And look at the top 6 clubs. Say, you know, you've got Mourinho, who's been in the job a year. You've got Conte, who's been in the job a year. You've got Guardiola, who's been in the job a year. You know, Pochettino's only been in the job a couple of years. Klopp's only been in the job a couple of years. There are squads still in massive transition. So you've got players, you know, like Luke Shaw, Smalling, Jones from Man United, for example. You've got players like, you've got players like Clichy and Sagna who've left Man City, who aren't getting kept on. You look at Liverpool as well. There'll be players to get there. Arsenal, for example, have loads of players like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, Coquelin even, who they might not be getting the game time that they want. I mean, certainly in squads like Chelsea, loads of players that we could be picking up. There's loads of players that are very talented at Chelsea, but don't fit into Conte's specific strategy. Don't fall into a specific philosophy. So it's not that they're not good enough. It's that they're just not the right type of player. And those managers with specific philosophies, Klopp, Guardiola, Pochettino, Conte as well, they're going to want to ship these players out so they can bring their own guys in, you know? So it's an opportunity for players, and it's an opportunity for a club like Newcastle to show ambition. Now, apparently we've absolutely categorically not got an interest in Joe Hart, okay? I understand why the rumour was there, and I would have had Joe Hart. And I really would have done. Because, again, it's the market that we need to be looking at. Players who have been there, done that, but still of an age where they can actually perform at the highest level. Hart's confidence had gone a bit. But, you know, he didn't have maybe the greatest season in Torino, but he was in a foreign country and his confidence was knocked. And maybe back in England he might be able to do something for another club, but apparently we're not in for him. I hope that means that we're going to go for Pep Reina. Honestly, I think he'll be a real statement of intent from us, and he's been there and done it. He'd be such a presence in the dressing room as well, and I think the younger guys could learn a lot from him. I'm looking at players like Woodman, you know, who I'd like to really progress in the next couple of years and try and get his chance, hopefully, because we've let goalkeepers like Fraser Forster go before, and he's an established Premier League goalkeeper now. So we need players like that. So look, I hope this means Reina. That is what we're absolutely going for after missing out on Caballero, after saying that we're not interested in Joe Hart. Apparently we're also not interested in Grosicki and Klukas, which have been rumours as well. I'm hoping that, say, from Hull, we might be having a look at Andy Robertson at left back. But again, back to the top six clubs, you know, you got players like Kieran Gibbs, who has been really strongly linked the last couple of weeks. I think an initial valuation was about 15 million, but now that's gone down to 8, allegedly. It's all reports, obviously. We don't know what's going on. Agents are saying things, clubs are saying another. Journalists kind of are probably as much in the dark as we are, because they're getting told conflicting things, and it's working out who's right, who's wrong, and which of the rumours to listen to. But Gibbs at 8 million, he's 27, he's got really good Premier League experience. He's not injury prone, as a lot of people think. He's been injured for 3 weeks of the last 3 years. He's got England caps, he's played in the Champions League, and he's played very well when he's been called upon, even though he hasn't been getting a run of games behind Nacho Monreal. But obviously, because Arsenal have just brought in another left back and spent a bit of money, he's third choice now, and it's probably his last big move, to be honest. In his late 20s, if he's going to be signing a 3-4 year contract, he'd be in his 30s, you know. So his last big move, perhaps, for Kieran Gibbs. I think he could absolutely do a job. We've been crying out for a first choice natural left back. I don't think we've bought one since Jose Enrique. You know, Hadara was brought in as a reserve player. Dummett's come up through the ranks, but and even then he's not a natural left back, as I would argue. Even Lazar that we bought in last year was arguably a winger. You know, he's not a defensive minded. But Gibbs would probably be my number one pick at left back. Apparently we've had a look at Callum Chambers, another player I think would be absolutely excellent acquisition for us to battle for right back. We can't rely on Yedlin for the entire season, as impressive as he's been, and we need competition in there. Chambers has a bit of versatility as well. I'm a big fan of his. Fabian Delph is another one that's been kicking about today again. It's a rumour that hasn't really gone away the last couple of years. 12 million apparently for Fabian Delph. He would give us something a bit different to John Joe Shelvey, who, again, we need competition for. We need competition for every position. Delph is more of a dribbler, passer, will run with the ball, where Shelvey will look around quarterback, he'll pick out a pass. He doesn't have to do the running because his ball skills can do it for him. But has Delph played enough football in the last 3 years to spend 12 million on? there's an argument to say 12 million's pretty much 6 million in old money. So it will be a low risk. Is he better than Colback? Yes. Is he better than Diarme? Probably, maybe, in some situations. So, and again, homegrown. All those last three I've mentioned, homegrown. And homegrown are going to be at a premium, given strict rules about squad statuses as well in the Premier League and in European competitions as well. From Liverpool, we've been looking at Shea Ojo on loan. Tricky winger who sort of been impressed for sort of the England unders. If Klopp wants to give him some game time out, he's probably going to. I think he'd be a pretty good. He sounds like he's a pretty promising player. I haven't seen a lot of him, but what I have seen is he seems like quite an exciting young player. Could give us something off the bench. And again, what we don't want to be doing is relying on just a couple of wingers that we've got, Richie and Atsu. Aaron's is back, but for how long? You know, a lot of people complaining, well, why should we develop? Other clubs develop, you know, academy players. When it's just like, well, when the academy players that we have can't cut it, and that's even in the Championship, yeah, that's why. So that could be an option. Ruben Loftus-Cheek from Chelsea, another top 6 squad player. He could be available on loan. Is he going to get the game time at Chelsea? It's unlikely. Coming from a title-winning side who have yet to spend anything yet, but you better believe they will do. From Manchester City, Kelechi Iheanacho. Today's been highly linked with Leicester City for 25 million. I'd be really jealous if they got him. I really would. I think 25 million is he's had very little opportunity to prove himself, but when he has played, he's scored. I think there's a stat flying around that he's had about 19 shots in the Premier League and he's scored 12 of them. He's an absolute poacher. He's a natural finisher. But again, where does he go? Does he go to the team who won the league 2 seasons ago, or does he come to the team who've just come up from the Championship? Newcastle might not mean anything to him, and it's a shame that we maybe can't compete with the likes of Leicester, despite what they've achieved in the Champions League and stuff. Absolutely amazing. But you almost think that next season, do they just revert back to default as a kind of low to mid-table side? I don't know. I don't know how it'll pan out. I don't think it seems so tight in that bottom 12. But he's another player from a top 6 squad that we probably need to be looking at, and you know, the likes of Batshuayi as well. Is what's he going to do? It's very unlikely we'd get him, and the likes of Giroud as well. I think we're just not at that. I don't think we have that draw for players like that who would be looking for better clubs. But then you look at, like, again from Liverpool, Daniel Sturridge has been talked about a lot. Is he somebody to go for? Personally, I don't think the money would work given his injury problems, and I don't think we'd fork out so much in wages or in transfer fee for somebody who hasn't really stayed at a club longer than a couple of years, and some top clubs, and his injury issues. I just think Rafa wouldn't take the risk. I don't know. I might be completely wrong on that, but I'd be very surprised if we, you know, the likes of, the talk about Carroll as well, like, I don't think that would ever happen anyway. But again, he's another one who's injury prone, and I wouldn't want to pay so much and so much a week for somebody who you cannot guarantee to get, you know, over 30 games in the season. So I think there's value to be had and talent to be, you know, looked at in the top 6 squads that are bloated, that are looking at bigger stars. You know, the fact that, like, Chelsea are going to be possibly spending like 95 million or something on Alexandro and Rudiger combined, like for 2 fullbacks, nearly 100. It's crazy money at the minute, but it just means that they'll need to sell. They'll all need to sell. Man United's as well. You know, if there's a chance that Smalling, you know, we maybe don't need too many centre backs now, but if there was an opportunity to get like a Kurt Zouma on loan, or You know, there's loads of names flying around that we could really go for. We should be going for it, and that's what would show ambition. And by compiling a squad with a lot of Premier League experience, but the right ages as well, not past it, the right ages, just that are sick of sitting on the bench, we can guarantee them a big stadium, a world-class manager, and game time, starting positions in the Premier League. It's all the footballer wants to do. They want to play. Yes, you might sit on the bench at Chelsea or Man City and get some trophies, but how many minutes of that trophy have you played, and how much do you feel that you've contributed? And would you not just prefer minutes? At the end of the day, they're all footballers, they're all humans, and they just want minutes. So we'll see what happens, but I'd like to think, you know, Mark Douglas has suggested that 2 more are quite close, but then Lejeune was quite close about 4 weeks ago, so we don't know. I think we're still feeling our way into the market, and I think that's where the frustration is. I think it's good to see the lads back at training. It'll really thrust into people's faces just how much, say, you know, where Benitez will see deficiencies in a squad, and there are a lot in the context of Premier League. We do need plenty more signings. I'd like to think that we smash the next few weeks out so that we get to the start of August and we're essentially, we've done 90% of our business. I'd really like that to be the case. I remember last season they just came thick and fast actually, and sometimes out of the blue. So maybe it is that the club are just keeping cards close to the chest. I'd rather that happened than risk us, you know, us missing out. We've missed out that we know of Caballero and Tammy Abraham. I can live with that. I can live with that for now. But we'll just see what happens moving forward. Anyway, I've been rambling for ages. Hope you've enjoyed a bit of a summer update. At the time of recording, it is it's the evening of the 6th of July. So we'll have another update soon when there's a bit more to comment about and feedback on. Let us know in the comments below, if you're watching on YouTube, who would you like to see us sign from the top 6? Who are your favourites, favourite possible players from there, and from abroad as well, or elsewhere in the Premier League? Who should we be signing to kick on? Who will be that first player over £20 million? We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening. If you've been listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, I've been Adam from the Toon Network. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Come and check us out. We've got some blogs coming out soon as well. So yeah, look forward to seeing you all. Cheers. Thanks very much. Bye bye.